Please
So
go
Doctor,
ahead.
this is group C. These are our group members. So for the assignment, we first came up with the summary to first understand exactly what was happening, to know what challenges were faced by this Sod Life assignment, Sod Life insurance company. So in our summary, we found that the case study was revolving around rock salt insurance to address the challenges that they had for compliance. We also noted that they had shortcomings in the country offices to understand and execute the compliance efforts. So with all these challenges, there was need to have planning, effective communication, and leadership to address the challenges that they were getting. So for question number 1, it was to assess the case study according to the best principles of management. So according to the best principles of management, this include planning, organizing, coordinating, leading, communicating, and controlling. So in all these principles, we try to analyze this case, that under planning, what was missing, what could they have done. So I'm going to explain these points depending on these principles. So from the case study under planning, we found out that they didn't have sufficient detailed plans. And this was evident because Peter King was responsible for planning the auditing of the compliance project for the country offices. However, because they didn't have enough detailed plan to carry out this indicated a gap in the planning compliance, that despite the awareness that the plans were lacking, this led to delays in complying across the country offices, and this was a big challenge to them. Then under organizing, they were not organized in coordinating of the for compliance activities. For example, we found out that this company had a centralized data center. However, with this centralized data center, the decentralization that they had, they could not coordinate well the organizing of the compliance effort, especially in the United States office. Then under coordination, for following the best principles of management under coordination, we found out that the Y2K had expanded. And this was done by project.
Sorry, you keep breaking off a bit.
Sorry, I think it's my network. Just hold on a minute.
Okay. It's as if you fed off a bit somewhere.
Okay, let me go back to my point of coordination. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am now clearly.
Okay. So under coordination, we found out that Rock Solid, they had a steering committee that was established to coordinate activities between the country offices, and this was mainly by the project managers and CIO. So they carried out regular meetings to establish compliance, to make sure that they align activities according to the best principles. Then under leading, we found out that Scott and King and Scott represented the steering committee, and this they did it to attempt to coordinate the efforts of the organization in compliance. However, because they didn't have enough project plans, there was need to have more leadership skills to align activities very well. So also, under best management skills, there was also, we found out that positively there was communication, there was a communication channel, and this helped them to communicate the importance of the Y2K compliance to all the members. This was done through the memos, the presentations, and meetings. And this helped them to carry out activities accordingly. Then under controlling, we found out that the audit committee requested for regular updates on the progress of the Y2 compliance efforts, and this helped to control and manage the situation. So under basic management, what they basically lacked were planning, organizing, and coordinating the activities, but they had positive efforts in leading, controlling, and communicating. And Doctor, I'll go to question number 2. And this one was what was the role that King and his internal audit play in the year 2000 initiative? So according to the case study, we found out that mainly what they should have done was to carry out assessment and assurance, carry out risk planning, do coordination and collaboration. So under assessment, what King should have done, that he has to assess the organization readiness for compliance, and this he has to evaluate the effectiveness of existing plans, structures, and procedures. Then also, he had to do monitoring and reporting, making sure that everything is moving according to plan, and this included tracking of milestones, and identifying of delays or obstacles, and also reporting of any progress made to senior management. Then under risk management, we found out that King and Scott, they have to play a critical role in identifying and managing risks that are associated with compliance. They have to assess the potential of the organization's issues to make sure that the risks are not above those that can be managed by the organization. Then also Scott has to coordinate well the activities of audit, and this he has to do with other stakeholders involving IT. He has to do this with operations to make sure that the compliance efforts are achieved. So, Doctor, the next question was, what role should Mayor and his team play, to carry out organization of the planning in the organization? So, Doctor, here from what we analyzed, Maya and his team, we knew that they have to play an important role in driving organization compliance in initiating planning. So in order to do this, they have to do strategic planning, they have to coordinate and do an oversight, they have to guide, they have to carry out quality assurance, they have to do reporting and accountability. So for strategic planning, they have to oversee that the organization the activities are going in the strategic direction, so that the compliance efforts are not misled. They also have to do coordination. They have to make sure that the activities across the organization are well communicated, they are well facilitated in the different departments, the business units, and also they have to guide and give support. Under support, Maya has to ensure that guidance and support is given to the country offices to develop their compliance levels. So under support, they have to identify the potential risks, they have to assess the the impact of any identified issues, and also come up with mitigation strategies that can help in any identified issue that can be identified. They also have to, like I explained earlier, for strategic, for reporting and accountability, for anything that is has happened, it has to be documented, it has to be presented to management, and the progress made, where challenges have been got, so that this is recorded and accounted for. And quality assurance, my organization is responsible to ensure that there is quality and integrity of the Y2K compliance efforts. They have to do activities like review, quality reviews. They have to validate compliance documentation, provide assurance to senior management, and ensure that effective feedback is given to management to communicate. Again, voting, like I've communicated, they have to give regular updates to senior management on the progress made and the challenges that have been identified. So, Doctor, the next question was, what role should the board of directors play at Y2K compliance? So Y2K compliance under governance, we found out that the board of directors has to give governance and oversight support for the compliance of the Y2K compliance efforts. The governors are responsible for setting up or strategic directions. They have to come up with policies. They have to prioritize and ensure that appropriate resources are available to carry out activities for the Y2K related list. So that's like since the board of directors, they are responsible for directing. They are responsible for showing the way that this is the way that we want to go. This is the direction that the organization should go. This is what should be done. These are appropriate resources that have to be available, and this can include staff and needed equipment to be used. The board of directors also, Doctor, they have to handle risk management. So here they have to assess the potential of any identified issues in the operations of the organization, and in the operations, in the finance, and the reputation. They work with management to identify and prioritize the risks that can be identified. They can also develop strategies to make sure these risks are managed effectively. So, Doctor, here, since they are the board of directors, they have to manage. They are accountable for the overall risk. So they have to make sure that risks are managed properly, and they are not above the organization's acceptable risks that the organization can handle. Then handle monitoring and reporting. The board of directors have to measure the progress of the compliance that is going in place. They have to make sure that they have to get regular updates from management. They have to make sure that other stakeholders and other departments like internal audit, they provide to them the regular updates from the compliance so that they can make better decisions for compliance. This they can do by reviewing reports. They can do assessments, and these can be like key performance indicators, checking the compliance where they can improve and what they can do more to improve on the performance. They also have to since they are the overall risk takers, that they have to make decisions They have to make strategic decisions so that they make sure that Y2K is complying, and this such as they have to decide which project should be done, which resources have to be available, which resources have to be allocated where. They have to authorize investments so that with this, they can provide guidance and direction to management to make sure the organization's activities are well aligned with its overall objective and risk appetite. The board of directors also have to be involved in communicating and carrying out transparency because they are the overall, so they have to communicate with all the stakeholders that are involved. So they have to talk to the shareholders. They have to talk to the public. They have to talk to the regulators to make sure that every party is informed of their progress in making sure that compliance is assured that rock solid insurance. By doing this, doctor, they are promoting transparency and accountability. Since they are still leaders, they have to carry out executive leadership to make sure that everything goes according the compliance levels are complied with. So, Doctor, the next question was how, according to the case study, we are given an exhibit in F3. So the next question was how accurate was the mayor's first draft as it was exhibited in exhibited F3. So from what we read from the case study, we found out that the exhibition was a comprehensive and well-structured set of guidelines for evaluating the compliance plans for the business unit, and this is supported by the points that we have, and these were grouped into audit objectives, assurance objectives, and assessment objectives. So under audit objective, we are able to see that this gentleman, under audit, he was able to check that if an individual is assigned a responsibility, is preparing for the plan. And also here, we focus on inventory taking, making sure that initial assessment and scoping and impact analysis is done. Also, you have to make sure that there is acquisition and retention of resources as it was required. We also ensure that appropriate target dates and project milestones were done to achieve project milestones to achieve goals. Under assessment objectives, in support of what this gentleman had done, we found out that he found out under assessment, the plan coordination, this section was mainly done assessing the key aspects of planning coordination, this including responsibility assessment, regular reporting, certificate processing, and software. And also inventory taking was also able to identify the inventory addressing the need for comprehensive understanding of the system. So this gentleman, under all these objectives, he was able to make sure that these were complied with. Then initial assessment. Here he focused mainly on segregation of the system, providing a structured approach to scoping the Y2K challenges. So doctor, the next question, it was, as a manager, how would you encourage your people to move faster with the project? So as a manager, as a group, we found out that we have to align individual goals with project objectives. We have to help the team to understand that each individual contribution contributes to the overall success of the project. So we have to make sure that each person's input is valued and is according to plan, to make sure this person works to achieve the overall objective of the organization. We also have to set plans, and we have to set plans which are clear and realistic, so that we don't set above what is expected and below what is expected. So by doing this, doctor, we are able to achieve this. We are able to select the roles that are going to be done, who's responsible for what activity, which deliverable is this person is going to do. By doing all this, we are able to make sure that we don't give all the tasks to one person or to a particular group, where they won't be able to achieve the target, the deliverable in the agreed time. We also have to ensure that we recognize and reward team and individual achievements. Because since we are working as a team, we have to make sure that our team is motivated. So from time to time, we can reward those people individually or reward them as a team to boost their morale. Then we can also encourage collaboration and innovation. We can talk to our team members to make sure that they don't do work alone. They work as a group, and telling them that when you work as a group, work is able to move faster, and you're able to achieve so much in a short time. We also have to address any issues and any challenges. So doctor, like any other project or task, there can be challenges. So if we have to ensure that the team members with any challenges that are got, we have to make sure that we address them, see how to resolve them, see how to handle them, so that the tasks are not put on hold because of these challenges. We can address them, we can escalate them. We can also find alternative means to make sure that these challenges are worked on. We can also ensure mentorship and team empowerment. So here we can make sure that our team members have the necessary tools to carry out their work. We can talk to them to motivate them, to make sure that if they have any challenge, they can this can be ironed out. We can also provide for constructive feedback. It's like some of us maybe will not be able to take in feedback, negative feedback positively, but we can encourage them when we talk to them that if this and this happens, we are able to, if this and this happens, you can do this, or you can ask for help, or you can ask for guidance. So doctor, the next question was to evaluate exhibit A3 and how we can improve it. So from what we saw, from what we learned from the case study, we saw that there are areas that we can improve. There are areas that we can improve, and just one of them is that they have to specify clarity. You have to make sure that you know what you are talking about, what is your objective, clearly state it. What do you want to do, what exactly do you want to do? Don't do so much without having a clear guidance on what you are doing. Then also, doctor, you have to ensure that there is comprehensiveness. For the Y2K program, since it's covering important aspects as coordination, inventory, initial assessment and development, we saw that all these, there were many activities, but they are not well they were not well coordinated. So we have to make sure that all these activities, even though there are many, we have to make sure they are well coordinated to achieve the overall objective for the compliance. Then we also have to make sure that our plans are aligned with the objective of attaining the overall cooperative goals. So you have to make sure that whatever we are doing, whatever activities we are doing, they're in line with what the organization wants to achieve. So to do this, we have to make sure that our activities are well coordinated, our objectives are in line with what the organizations wants to do, so that we don't do things that are overboard or under the organization's expectation. So we also have to make sure that the scalability and flexibility. We have to make sure that whatever we are doing is flexible enough to accommodate unique characteristics and requirements of each business unit. So we make sure that whatever objectives that we put up, whatever activities we have to do, it should be able to make adjustments where there is need. There is need by any of our officers to make sure that work is not put on hold because we are not able to change from one task to another. We have also to make sure that we are able to integrate with existing processes. From the case study, we saw that even though they are carrying out different activities, it was a challenge for them to incorporate this with new processes. So we have to make sure that in order to improve our work, in order to achieve the overall goal, we have to make sure that our processes are able to work with the current processes that are in place, to make sure that resources are well used and technology is able to help us to maximize efficiency. So, Doctor, the last question was what some of the questions that can be done, can be developed. So under these are the questions that we are able to come up with. I'll let my colleague Sharon to take us through these questions that we are able to come up with. Sharon?
Thank you, Sylvia. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Okay, so as a team, these are the questions we agreed on that are redesigned. The first one under plan coordination was, has responsibility for the preparation of the Y2K plan for a business unit been assigned to an individual? Does the assigned individual possess the necessary skills and experience to accomplish the audit activities? And does the assigned individual possess adequate resources and any unnecessary support to fulfill the responsibilities effectively? And is the individual required to provide regular status reports to a central coordinating individual within the country office or project based on a common format? And has an appropriate process been put in place to ensure that certification of the Y2K compliance is obtained for all packaged application vendors, system management vendors, operating system vendors, among others? That's what we came up with under plan coordination. And then under inventory taking, these are the questions we came up with as well. Appropriate steps have been taken to ensure that all end users, including PCs and desktops, are identified and included in the inventory. Do the application inventories include the necessary elements that will allow the assessment of risk, cost and time horizon surrounding the Y2K challenge? And is there a process for addressing discrepancies identified during inventory reconciliations? And are corrective actions promptly taken? Are there documented policies and procedures in place for inventory management, including guidelines for proper handling? Are inventory management practices compliant with relevant regulatory requirements and industry standards? Are there controls in place to validate the completeness and accuracy of inventory reports, particularly regarding end-user applications? And have the inventories been documented for future references by other progressive audits? Have the roles and responsibilities of Y2K compliance been determined and communicated with the business organization unit? And the last one, under initial assessment scoping, the questions we came up with were, have the inventories been segmented in logical application segments, which are the applications, the databases, the runtime components, and interfaces? Are there contingency plans in place to address resource gaps? Has the organization conducted a thorough analysis to determine the scope of what will be captured and not captured in the activity, in the audit activity? What processes are in place to identify and procure necessary resources like funding, skilled personnel, and technology? And lastly, does the committee track progress towards meeting Y2K compliance goals? And what mechanisms are there in place to adjust timelines if necessary? Those are the questions we came up with as a group. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Sharon and Sylvia, for presenting on behalf of the group. This was my first opinion of it is that you really had, I think, a very clear understanding of your case study. You have been thorough. That's what I can say. And I think you're also preempting some of the content of the lecture on African style of management. It's the next session that we are to have. Thank you for that. Do we have any questions or comments from others? We have any question or comment? If no, can we have the next group? Thank you.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, colleagues. Kindly confirm if my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Before you is our group. We are 6 in number, and those are the members. And we'll dive straight into the presentation. And in the light of the case study that we had on the case study that we had, the first question was for us to look at the roles of Mr. King, who is the head of internal audit. So it's Mr. King and his internal audit team. Yes, and the first role we see a doctor is that it is business systems assessment. So as the internal audit team, they conduct an independent review of the business applications to identify and suggest any mitigations to risks in alignment with the organizational goals. And they also conduct a risk identification and control recommendation, where they assist management in identifying business risks and recommending applicable controls to keep the risks within acceptable levels. Another role they could do is assurance on the accuracy of financial information. So basically, they affirm that all the transactions are properly authorized, assets are safeguarded, and that the company adheres to regulatory and legislative requirements. Now, when we go to the roles of Mr. Mayor and the IS planning team, we see that they conduct hardware and software development plans, and this should be in sync with the rock solid business goals and objectives. They implement the required system and data management standards across the rock solid offices because they operate in different jurisdictions. Then they standardize ICT operations and system deployments across rock solid offices to enable ongoing operations. And they offer guidelines and support for hardware and software acquisition, data administration, and systems development across all rock solid business offices. They also ensure that all new hardware and software deployments are duly tested and duly serve the intended purpose through conducting the tests together with the intended users. They conduct ICT management reporting. As the head of the unit, he is required to provide regular ICT management updates to the audit committee. Now, the roles of the board, as we know, is the roles of the board is basically oversight and planning and making decisions in regards to the direction of the organization. So, in this regard, the board monitors management's fulfillment of its responsibilities for safeguarding assets and producing accurate financial statements. Then the board members, this is just a note, it is as a legal responsibility, the board members have a legal liability to ensure utmost due care to organizational assets, and so they could be held liable in case there are any damages to these assets. So this keeps the board members on their toes to really make sure that the assets are duly protected. So, and the board achieves all this through reviews by internal and external auditors, and as well as the board audit committee. We know that the internal audit and external auditors they do independent reviews in the organization, like for example, like in Rock Solid, and report directly to the board audit committee to give that independent assurance on the happenings in the organization. I'll request Michael to take us through the next few slides.
Thank you very much, Martin. Kindly project the. Okay. So the next question was about the adequacy of Ben Scott's first draft that he presented, and that was in Exhibit 3. Yeah, so what I understood about this part, you'll find that what they mean by adequacy, it's more like the state or quality of being.
Sorry, Alvin, you're a bit low.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was saying what I understand by that statement of where they were asking about the adequacy of Ben Scott's first draft, they are trying to tell us to see how adequate, or more like the quality of this draft. So you find that this draft was well sectioned. It had section 1 up to section 5, and each section was covering something. Section 1, you'll find that it was addressing plan collaborations, emphasizing individual responsibility, regular reporting and instrument of compliance for merchandisers, and additional Y2K protection in software contracts. Then section 2, it focuses on forced taking. Section 3 was in original assessment and scoping. section 4. So every section had an area it was covering, but then we were able to also notice that there are some very important qualities that this document had that we could say made it more adequate. So first of all, this draft was comprehensive because you would find that the program was covering all essential aspects of the Y2K compliance planning, including responsibility assessment, inventory management, assessment, impact analysis, and even development of the Y2K plan. So this comprehensiveness would ensure that there are no critical areas that are not overlooked in the compliance process. And then there was also clarity and specificity. Now here you would find that the audit objectives and corresponding sections of this this draft and the program were clearly defined and structured. In each section, you'll find that each section in each section specific tasks and criteria for evaluation provided clear guidance for the auditors and those responsible for the Y2K compliance within the business unit. I think Martin already pointed out the roles of each and everyone in the previous slides. Then you would find alignment with corporate goals. This was a very important key because the audit objectives were directly aligned with the corporate-wide goal of achieving the Y2K compliance. In that document, they said it was supposed to be by December 31st, 1998. So you'll find that this ensures that the audit program would focus on activities that contribute to the timely achievement of the organization's overall objectives. And then there was also risk mitigation. I would probably say here by addressing, let's say, vendor compliance, things like inventory management, assessment and impact analysis. Here, generally, the program helps to mitigate the risk associated with the Y2K non-compliance. And it ensures that potential risks are identified early and appropriate measures are taken to address them. So you would clearly see that you can even see any potential risk that could come in as the program is being addressed. Then there is accountability and also monitoring, because the program emphasizes the assessment of responsibilities and establishing the monitoring mechanism for tracking progress. So you would find that this promotes accountability and transparency throughout. Transparency is a very big key when it comes to something like this type of audit draft, because you need to make sure that everybody is on the same page and all key players are up to speed. So this can enable, I could say, timely intervention. If any deviations from the plan occur, it would be easy for someone to intervene in case of anything. And then also there is scalability and adaptability, because you'd find that while this program is, excuse me, while this program is designed for specific business units, for a specific business unit, you'd find that its framework can be adapted and scaled to suit the needs of different organizational structures and sizes. that is, they have 3 branches. That was New York, there was Canada, and there's the other one. So you'd find that it provides a flexible approach that can be applied to all the other branches of this organization. And you'd find that also it would also vary levels of complexity in the Y2K compliance efforts. Martin, could you please go to the next slide? Yes, so the next question was how to motivate others to move faster with the project. So as a manager, motivating and encouraging your team to move faster with a project, I think it involves a combination of leadership strategies, things like effective communication, and maybe fostering a positive work environment. So we came up with a couple of, I could say, points or approaches that we felt one would consider in order to motivate a team to move with the project. So the first one is set clear goals and expectations. So you would find that in the Y2K program, clear goals and expectations were clearly established through the audit objectives that were outlined in the program. And these objectives include properly assigned responsibilities for the Y2K compliance, things like scoping, the extent of the Y2K problem. There's also ensuring resource acquisition. All these objectives were clearly stated. So by clearly defining these goals, everyone involved in this Y2K compliance effort would understand what it needs to be achieved, and also by when. They would clearly know what goals they need to achieve at every point. Then our next point was create a sense of purpose. So initially, the Y2K program had rather the Y2K audit program was communicating, is communicating the importance of achieving the Y2K compliance, the overall success and stability of the business unit. So team members need to understand the potential risks and consequences of Y2K non-compliance to feel motivated to address whichever issue they were facing promptly. So by emphasizing the significance of the project, it creates a sense of purpose and urgency. I believe it creates a sense of urgency among all the members that are part of this program. Then provide the right resources. You would find that resources are essential for conducting through the Y2K assessment and implementing necessary changes to achieve compliance. So this includes, let's say, assess the skilled personnel. You need to assess the people who are skilled. There is also software tools for assessment and remediation, and budgetary allocation for the Y2K related expenses. So you'd find that this program would have to ensure that the business unit has the necessary resources to support the Y2K compliance efforts effectively. And that is only by providing. The next point was break down the project into milestones. So you can break down this compliance process into manageable milestones, something that that the team can achieve, because everyone knows a project is big. So if you break it down, you can have achievable small goals until the project is complete. So you would find that things like, let's say, they could say, let's complete inventory assessment, or let's conduct impact analysis, or let's make some remediation plans, and maybe implementing and maybe implementing changes. So you'd find that by dividing this project into smaller portions, achievable tasks can be, got by the team members, and it helps to also maintain their focus and momentum, because it's not good to start something and then you stop it. So when you start something and you start achieving each and everything, like gradually, you have the motivation to complete it. So it can also help, or rather lead to faster progress overall. Then empowering and delegating. So here you would find that there would be need to assign clear responsibilities and empowering individuals within the business unit to ensure ownership. This is to ensure ownership of specific aspects of the Y2K compliance process. For example, let's say designating individuals to lead inventory management. There should be a team that can do that. There should be a team that can coordinate with vendors. You have to delegate some work to certain people, because not everyone will be able to do everything. There are people in an organization with different skill sets, so you have to allocate people to handle the project based on their skill sets. So when you empower team members to make decisions and take initiatives, it can also accelerate progress, because you're giving them that zeal, that motivation to, I can do this. They've come to me because I have this skill set. So let me take this role and complete it. Then recognize and reward progress. Recognizing and rewarding milestones achieved through the Y2K compliance process can be definitely motivating, and it also helps to boost morale among the members of the team. This could include, let's say, you can acknowledge a successful completion of, let's say, a certain part of the project, let's say inventory management or risk assessment, and let's say significant progress in remediation efforts, or even in achieving, let's say, a targeted deadline, just a simple targeted deadline that was part of the project. So celebrating these small achievements with the members of the team, like, should I say, publicly in the organization, and providing, let's say, positive feedback. This kind of culture in an organization, it reinforces the importance of the work being done. I think people will be like, okay, this work is actually good. We need to, after achieving something and we are rewarded, they are motivated to continue, and it encourages them to keep up the same kind of effort and energy within the project. I beg to submit, and my colleague Milton can be able to take us to the next part.
Thank you very much, Ivan. I hope I'm heard. Am I clear? That's it?
Yes, you're clear.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I'm Milton, and I'm handling question 3. where we are supposed to look at that exhibit 3. So when we analyzed, we realized that the Y2K plan, audit plan, was there. It aimed to ensure thorough planning and execution of the year 2000 compliance efforts across rock-solid strategic business units. And you realize that most of the things that were in place really were intended to meet the compliance of what the organization was planning. And we realized that with the corporate-wide goal of achieving the Y2K compliance for that, for all the applications by that time of December, it was imperative that to establish robust plans and procedures. So this audit program was there that was planned that would evaluate the effectiveness of the assigned responsibilities, the scope of assessment, the resources, acquisition of resources, and establishing of the milestone and management of mechanism in achieving that, the Y2K compliance. So when we looked at those objectives that were already laid down and data laid down, we realized that they were laid down and they were clear that they could easily achieve what the organization wanted, where one was properly assigned responsibility for effecting the Y2K compliance, properly scope the extent of Y2K problems, ensure the acquisition and retention of the resources required to effect the Y2K compliance, establish appropriate targets, dates, and project milestones to achieve the corporate-wide goal, provide for appropriate management and monitoring mechanism for the Y2K. So when we look at all these ones, and together with what Martin and Ivan presented, you realize that all these objectives were clear, that they could really achieve what they wanted. Next. So when we went ahead to redesign what was generally needed under the auditing, under the coordination, we came up with these questions. Just like one has the responsibility for preparation of Y2K plan being assigned to an individual with sufficient authority and expertise. So that is one that we redesigned. Is the individual required to provide regular status reports to a central coordinating individual within the country office or project office based on a common format? Are these reports effectively communicated? Is there a mechanism in place to ensure certification of Y2K compliance for all packaged application vendors, system management vendors, operating system vendors, and business partners? Are future software contracts incorporating Y2K compliance protection clauses? Has a comprehensive inventory been conducted, including all end users applications, including PC and desktops? Are necessary elements included for risk, cost, and time assessments? Are there mechanisms in place to ensure continuous updates and maintenance of the inventory? Has a comprehensive impact analysis been conducted, considering all logical applications segments? Is there a documented Y2K plan in place with clear accountabilities for project deliverables? So that was what we came across under coordination. May I invite the next colleague to join? Possible as a join us, I can go ahead as inventory tracking. We're also under inventory tracking. We still also design the following questions. One was, have the appropriate steps been taken to identify and include all end user applications, including the PC and SOC in the inventory? Do application inventory include necessary elements for assessing risk, cost, and time horizons related to Y2K challenges? Are the mechanism in place to ensure the accuracy and completeness of the inventory, including regular updates and maintenance? So those are what we could get out under inventory taking. I don't know whether my colleague is now ready to join us.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Milton. Martin, could you go to the next section? Yes, now in this section, there was the initial assessment and scoping. So in this phase here, this phase actually lays out the foundation for subsequent steps in the Y2K compliance project. And here it basically guides, or it guides the identification of critical areas, resource allocations, and development of a comprehensive plan for addressing Y2K challenges within the organization. And we enhanced some of the questions that the team would actually improve on this project. And one of the questions stated in 3.1, where we have, do they have inventories been submitted, or have inventories been segmented into the logical application segments effectively? Because in this whole thing, in this whole section, we are looking at, clarity. And also the next question is there a documented process for prioritizing the logical application segments based on criticality and potential impact on business operations? And the other question is, are there mechanisms to ensure consistency and accuracy in the initial assessment and scoping process? So if you go and look at this, basically this here, it kind of guides us to identify critical areas and also better allocate resources to and development of a comprehensive plan in addressing the other challenges. So going to the next section, which is section 4, which is impact assessment. And with here in impact assessment, in the context of the Y2K compliancy, this one involves a detailed examination of the potential consequences and effects that data-related issues may have on an organization's systems, applications, and business processes. And the goal is basically to identify, assess, and also prioritize the impact of Y2K challenges. And these are the 3 questions we kind of enhanced. Have comprehensive lines of code estimates been developed for each logical application segment? The next question is the impact analysis process integrated with risk assessment and prioritization efforts? And the last question is mechanisms in place to address dependencies and interdependencies identified during impact assessment. Actually, when yesterday evening after our lecture, when I looked through this, I kind of related to what Doctor was teaching yesterday about ICT concerns, the products and services, economic aspects and compliance. And, it even made me much better understand what actually this organization was passing through. And basically also it helps us to even have much better ICT strategies. Yes, now going to the last section. Yes, and this last section was basically looking at the Y2K plan. And well, the original question that was in the paper, does the Y2K plan clearly define accountabilities for project deliverables such as, development, modifications, testing, and implementation? So when you go and look at that, it's like the statement. you have a proper information systems life cycles? No? Would you have, does it, that cycle actually, is it clearly defined? And also mechanisms, the next question, are mechanisms in place for continuous monitoring and adjustments of the Y2K plan based on the evolving requirements and challenges? Yeah, because, you know, at times when you come up with a plan, you have to also have that in mind, you know, because this is an ICT system. Demands, requirements keep on changing, and we keep on, and probably keep on getting other challenges. And the last question is there a documented process for communication and escalation of issues or delays in the Y2K compliance effects? So in conclusion, this this semi-final report or draft of the rock solid Y2K plans audit program incorporates, you know, additional questions that we have presented to you for each section to ensure, one, comprehensive evaluation of the Y2K planning and execution. Secondly, is, you know, emphasizing the importance of clear responsibilities, thorough assessment, effective resource management, and proactive monitoring to achieve Y2K compliance within the specified timelines. Thank you very much. That's all that we had.
Thank you very much for your detailed presentation. Again, also, I think it is work well done and well thought out, well appreciated, and again, preempting some of the content of our next session. Could we have the next group, please?
Let's.
Hello?
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon, Emma.
Sorry for this. We are having some issues here in because it has rained heavily, but I was using my phone to share.
Okay.
Just a quick one. I think it is visible. The case of Solid Insurance Company presents several management challenges, particularly regarding the implementation of year 2000 Y2K compliance projects. So we came up, we analyzed according to principles of management, and in so doing, we saw different issues. In terms of planning, the company faced critical deadline, but lacked detailed project plans across its country office. This indicates a failure in effective planning and a fundamental principle of management. So each country office should have analyzed their systems and estimated resource requirements and developed a comprehensive plans much earlier so it could be done independently by each country office. So they lacked that in terms of planning. We also analyzed in terms of organizing, there was lack of centralized coordination for Y2K compliance efforts, where efforts were made to establish project management offices. So they established the management offices, but the level of coordination and authority varied across offices. So each office in the particular country was doing its organization it would be central for every office. So they lacked that. So the lack of centralized control led to inefficiencies and delays in the compliance process. In terms of leadership, we defined leadership. It plays a critical role in driving organizational change and ensuring adherence to the strategic goal. So in this case, there was a failure in effectively communicating the urgency of the Y2K problem and mobilizing resources to address it. Leaders like Don Mayer and Peter King attempted to push for action, but their efforts were hindered by inadequate support from the top management. So their efforts were hindered by lack of support by top management. So since their actions were hindered, so also the decision makers, the stakeholders, they cannot make decision because their top managers, they are not reporting what is really happening. So in terms of leadership, that one also was another issue. We also went for controlling, analyzed controlling. Effective control mechanisms are necessary to monitor progress and address deviations from the plan. The case highlights a lack of monitoring and control over Y2K compliance efforts, as evidenced by efficient testing methodologies with proper control in place. It is challenging to ensure the timely and successful completion of projects. That was another issue being raised. In this part of management, when we were analyzing, we came up with a conclusion. In conclusion, the case of solid life insurance underscores the importance of adhering to the best management principles, those which we have highlighted above. I want my colleague to continue with question 4.
Question 4. I'm Wambale Giles. I'm continuing on from Emma Kaswazi, and I'll take us through question 4. Question 4 basically requires us to highlight the roles of key stakeholders in the Y2K initiative. We sectioned them into a number of sections. We looked at the role of Peter King, and the internal audit. King and his internal audit, we realize they play a very crucial role in assuring the compliance and identifying any possible risks. We see that King's role is supposed to look at the oversight, evaluate project plans, and also communicate progress to the audit committee. In this case, this will involve assessing the effectiveness of the Y2K initiatives, and then highlighting any form of deficiencies and recommending any corrective actions. If there could be any challenges in an observation of any challenges, then the work, this one is supposed to make any recommendations as much as possible. And then the other stakeholder in this case is Mayor and the IS planning organization. So Mayor and the the IS planning organizations are charged with the responsibility of coordinating the Y2K compliance efforts across the entire company. Such a big responsibility. Then they're also supposed to provide guidance as well as resources, and then support the country officers to ensure timely and effective compliance. In this case, basically, they are the kingpins. They play the central role in providing any form of guidance relating to the implementation of the Y2K initiative. And then also to see that mayor should provide regular updates to the entire stakeholders. And that will include the previous team that we talked about, the audit committee, and also provide updates on progress. And then any challenges that may arise regarding the initiative. And then the other stakeholder we have is the board of directors. Like we all know, the role of the board of directors in an organization is quite a diverse one, quite a big one. They stand majorly usually at the top of the management of any organization. And in this case here, they look at, they're charged with the oversight role in ensuring that management is very effective. So basically they address any form of management challenges. And in this case here, with regard to the Y2K initiative. Then again, the board of directors should review the progress reports. Any reports that come to them from the other stakeholders, the role of the board of directors is supposed to review them and then do any form of risk assessment, as well as hold management accountable for meeting compliance deadlines. I remember any deadlines that have been set, the board of directors is supposed to ensure that the people who are charged with the responsibilities of providing progress reports or implementing certain maybe certain goals, achieving certain goals, those are supposed to report to them, and then they're supposed to ensure that they're done within the given timelines. So the board of directors is supposed to provide the overall support to this initiative, and then also look at allocation of resources and identify any priorities that must be followed to ensure that any form of risks that may arise are mitigated as early and fast as possible. We have a question, question number 5, which requires us to make an evaluation of the initial draft of the detailed guidelines for the Y2K compliance. If you look at the detailed guidelines as shown in the Exhibit 3, we see a structured framework for assessing the Y2K project planning. We also observed, as we discussed, that it lacks in certain areas, and we observe that there's need for improvement, for more comprehensive guidance. And some of these areas that we highlighted can be found in a number of sections. We looked at section 3, 4, and then 5. In section 3, we observe that the audit program should include a more detailed assessment of the process for certifying the Y2K compliance for the software vendors and business partners, So this is supposed to involve evaluating the adequacy of the certification criteria, verification procedures, and then contractual agreements. So this is very key in any form of implementation of any project. There must be a criteria that should be followed to make any form of certifications. And then remember that any form of implementation involves processes. So these processes must be verified as well. And then the contracts must be viewed critically, so that you agree on something that will not put the company in disrepute, or to ensure that any loopholes that may arise should be avoided as much as possible. And then we look at section 4. We thought that the audit program should expand on the evaluation of the impact analysis methodologies used by the business units. So we observe that this should include assessing the accuracy of the estimates, identifying potential risks and dependencies, and evaluating contingency plans for mitigating unforeseen issues. You know, in any form of implementation, you'll definitely be faced with issues that may arise. So it is important that an analysis of the impact is made, so that you know, the challenges should be minimized as much as possible for effective implementation of any program. We also observed in section 5 that the audit plan should provide additional criteria for evaluating the completeness and effectiveness of the Y2K plans. An initiative, yes, it has a beginning. And like I said, we set processes that lead to completion. So it is important that every step in the process of implementation is assessed, so that the objective or the goal of completeness is achieved. And it's not only completeness, but also effectiveness is very key in this particular aspect. So this process should involve assessing the alignment of project deliverables with the strategic objectives, evaluating resource allocation strategies, and reviewing mechanisms for tracking progress and addressing deviations from the plan. The plan must be smart. It must focus on a number of issues, and these issues here must be considered. And critical among them is the issues that I mentioned, the deliverables, which must follow a particular strategic plan. And then in conclusion, regarding question 4, we say that while the initial draft provides a good starting point, as we've observed, for assessing the Y2K compliance efforts, it should it could benefit from further refinement to ensure comprehensive coverage of key areas and enhance its effectiveness as a management tool. So that is the submission that we had as a group. Our other colleagues are there. They have been supportive, much as they may not have presented, but they are online and they are with us. Thank you.
Thank you. I've already received apologies from some of them. I know what's going on in Nkozi. Sorry for that, but thank you for still making it in a difficult situation. We have the next group.
Hello. I'm having a lot of wind over this side. I don't know if I'm audible enough.
You're audible. You're audible. Well done.
Thank you. This is a group D, I think the last group, and those are our group members. Andrew, go to the next slide, please. Okay, I'll be handling question 1 to 3. Where question 1 was wanted us to analyze the case, basic principles of management. We did so analyze the principles that were there, and found a few that we managed to come up with. That was one of them was the planning. There was need for planning, organizing, leading, controlling, management responsibilities, communication and coordination, adaptability and change management. Then in response with the case under planning, it was evident that rock solid had a challenge with its compliance in requiring it to in the planning to address the debt coded system that they already had, because they had something whereby it could not address the problem, the debt coded system properly. It was now they would come to 2000, but they had still would have only 2 digits, whereby it was necessary that for them to have a proper planning that would include analysis of softwares, estimations of resource requirements, and formulation of project timeline. Then under organizing, when you look into the case, you could see that it was evident that organizing was so much needed to allow them arrange resources to implement the plans. And you could see that in the United States office, they had centralized their efforts in that office under USA, under Weber's leadership, demonstrating an attempt to organize and streamline Y2K compliance efforts. However, the challenge exists in ensuring a coordinated approach across all offices, because most of the efforts, they were putting more effort, most of the effort in USA, leaving Canada and Europe out, which was a challenge. Then in leading, they also had challenges because leadership challenges are evident, particularly in motivating countries' offices to prioritize and accelerate their Y2K compliance. Now, why would this be? Whatever, you find that Jane Weber's role was emphasizing the urgency of Y2K problems. In the USA alone, was doing a lot. That's why in the USA, whereby it was a challenge. It was supposed to cut across all, have a consistency in all the in all the country offices. Most of its emphasis was in the USA office alone. Then in controlling, it is very it is very necessary that internal audit functions plays a crucial role in monitoring and reporting on Y2K compliance progress to the audit committees. But then you find that it was serving as a control to only a control of mechanism and to ease the provision and updates of audit committees and identifying areas of concern, such as lack of detailed, they didn't have detailed project plans. So there was need for it to be controlled and all that. Then when it comes to management responsibilities, management responsibility helps to align principles of controlling and organizing, which also involves creating an environment with inappropriate controls, like for example, evidence by code of ethical conduct, and then segmentations of duties. So this one needed to be put, because now you find that the management had highlighted an annual report. They had an annual report that was to respond for the maintenance of internal controls, selecting appropriate levels, and then the regulatory requirements. So there was need for the management to have the responsibility of having controls or overall code of ethical conducts within the organization or within the rock solid company. Then when you're on communication, communication is the key, like mostly very important, and then coordination. You could see that they underwent significant significant business transformation activities. There were a lot of them, introducing new lines of business. They were carrying out re-engineering of core processes. For example, Canada office had not yet established a Y2K compliance report by April of 1997, and yet USA and Europe had established their project offices already. So that one needed that one. It was something whereby it needed them to have that coordination so that they have a standardized methodology across all offices that needed to be improved. So for them to have that coordination and then communication needed to be there with the same. Not only maybe this office having a different communication and the other are delayed or maybe with the with the timeline. And then the last one still on adaptability and change management. Yes, transformation was there. They're moving from they were trying to change from having change from a given perspective to another within the organization to help ease their business running within within the all offices. But then also there was need for them to make sure that they were able to be in that position of all them being positioned to change, because you could be wanting to adapt, but then you cannot yet. What are the change management that you have principles which are in hand? Like for example, communications and employment involved becoming essential for smooth transition. Make sure that communicate to all employees, involve them coming in. Yes, we're having these changes coming up. So then you train them. So long as when you bring the transition, it will be a very, very smooth way for them for you to transit and then move to a different system or development of the project in the organization. And then question 4, it wanted us to identify the roles of the different stakeholders that were there. And one of the stakeholders, it was Peter King with the internal auditors, with the internal audit organization. Then there was Maya, and then the information system planning organization, and then the board of directors. So looking at King with the King and the internal audit organization, obviously there was one that needed to do the monitoring and then reporting. To who? He had it because now at an internal audit primary role was to monitor, number one, and then assess the progress of all compliance initiatives, and then have regular reviews of country's office project plans, ensuring that the details and that they are all detailed, having comprehensive, comprehensive, and then all of them being aligned with the organizational goal. That was one of the role of Peter King. And then also, it needed also to have an effective compliance effort to appreciate all resources which were there, and then all that needed to be reported to other offices so that they're on the same page with whatever is moving on in the different offices. Then also, it needed to make risk assessment on the projects. You need to identify potential risk that would associate with the compliance, and then assess the adequacy of how you can mitigate, have a risk mitigation strategies to help, so that when the process of coming up and then developing it, they can easily mitigate the risk that comes along along the project development. And also, you needed to have ensure that Y2K project plan addresses critical areas of potential vulnerabilities. That all comes under, you have identified the risk. How was he going to mitigate the risk? And then which areas have vulnerability, whereby in case the project has started, they are now in the project, they're in the process of developing, they can come and say, no, we have a vulnerability here, and then they come up with the strategies of curbing the risk. And also they have need for him to have communication between all stakeholders. That included mayors with the information system planning organization and all board of directors. There was no way cannot have not to involve himself in communicating with the stakeholders. It was very necessary. And then also he needed to have and provide updates on status on the Y2K compliance initiatives, and then address all the challenges, and then proposing solutions to all stakeholders. That all comes with communication. And under advisory role, Peter King needed to provide advisory role support to Dan Meyer and his team, because you could realize that Peter King was the vice president and an internal auditor. So it needed to also give an advisory role to like support to Don Meyer and his team who headed the ICT, the Information System Planning Organization, and also offer them some insight on audit best practices and risk management on the compliance. They also needed to assist in the development of detailed project planning audit checklist, because so that for all corporate wide and steering committees, because so that can cut across, helping them come out, okay, I have this in place. Him as being the vice president, he can help and then advise, okay, if you're following having an audit plan, let's have this kind of checklist so that it can ease the work of auditors. Then also he needed to have a training to carry out training and then awareness programs for all the awareness program to the employees and all other employees across the organization and all the country offices, to enhance awareness to the employees, and then also ensure that employees understand their roles in achieving Y2K programs, and also encourage them a culture of accountability. Yes, if you're training them, so then let them also be aware that yes, there's something has come. If maybe you have done something, someone should be accountable for. If maybe a mistake has happened, you are responsible for maybe as a delay, or maybe in a timeline of some activity, you have to be accountable for it. So you find that you had a few roles that we had identified, which was those above. And then another aspect was the role of Don Meyer and the Information System Planning Organization. Well, we identified that Don Meyer needed to have leadership and then coordination for the employees, whereby he had to lead, because if you are leading, he was the lead for the project management office and then coordinating efforts across the country, So not just to maybe put more emphasis in one office, but to make sure he's cutting across and leading and then coordinating all the offices. That were the 3 offices that they had, both that is USA, Canada, and then Europe. Also, he needed to establish a standardized methodology to be used by each business unit within the organization, and also to oversee the development of the detailed project, because it was one coming out of most of the planning and the information system planning and of the organization needed to make sure that he's having an oversight of all the project plans, analyzing all the softwares they're using. If maybe an office is using a different one, maybe to find out why they're using that, so they're on the same line. And then also identify even the estimates, even identify the hardware and software applications, that data standards across all the countries, but without putting in mind that I can maybe concentrate in one office alone, but to cut across all the offices. So coordination was really so much important for him, for Maya to do that. And then still communication and then collaborations like as Peter King does. He also needed to really have a communication and coordination plays a very big role for him because he needed to provide regular updates to the committee with the board of directors. And also that was suggested by Peter King. So if Peter King advise him and suggests that, yes, you have to do that and this, for example, giving updates, he needed, if we could see that already Peter had suggested to him that he should make sure that all the time he has an update, he gives a regular updates to audit committees of all board of directors. So in all that you find that is one way of communicating and then coordinating with the stakeholders. And then also still collaborating internal auditors and ensuring them that they have comprehensive assessment of Y2K compliance efforts. And also under still communication, you find that he has to have a communication progress and challenges and then resource needs to a corporate-wide steering committee. Communicate anything that seems to be having like challenges. If you should not hide it, maybe stay within his department or alone. You should make sure that all that challenges and then resource needs for each unit is communicated within all the steering committee of the project, so that they are aware about it, and then they get to brainstorm and come up with maybe with solutions together. Because you could find that they have even a solution within a different unit, but because he has not communicated to them, they may not even realize or identify that that was a challenge. And with resource management, yes, he needed to manage the resources, because allocating resources effective to you is one responsible for allocating resources. Now, if you don't manage them properly, it means all the resources you may not report allocated resources, which is, and then you are at the end of it all, it's not effective. And then the timing completion of the project may not be effective because you missed allocated or mismanaged the resources which were there or in the recommended for you or available for you for the project. Also, you needed to understand managing of resources. You needed to implement a process to obtain certifications of compliance from software vendors. Now, you're the one managing resources. Okay, if a software vendor says this, maybe some of the softwares they're having for the project is not having certification, you need to be, and then they're allocating, maybe they're requiring or requiring, maybe they need a lot of amount of money or something to, or like from the vendor. It is still him. If he spends a lot of money on that, then at the end of it all, the softwares are not certified, and then still then maybe there's need to have a new one. He would have wasted that resource. Yet he was supposed to make sure that all the processes of getting the certification from the vendors is done right. And then even having system management altogether with all the other business partners, make sure that all that's not wasted. Then at the end of it all, you find that he has to do testing and validating of methodologies. Yeah, there was need for him to have a testing methodologies and which are established, including simulation testing, and then maybe to validate the effectiveness of the compliance measures that they have in place before they can say, okay, fine, we are going to use this, we are going with this, and then have maybe where there are errors and correct them as soon as possible. Also, it needed us to collaborate with internal auditors to address any deficiency identified during testing. Yes, if the auditors are carrying out their activities, he has to collaborate with them and see that, okay, during our internal audit, we identified that within here we have some 1 or 2 errors or deficiency. Then he can easily come in and then correct that. So testing and then validating was necessary for him to carry out. And lastly, he needed to do documentations. Documentation here meaning for him to have a comprehensive documents for of the compliance efforts, making information transparent and then accessible accessible to all relevant stakeholders. If you don't document, a stakeholder may sometimes when you try to the way you explain things might be different the way you have documented it, and then you find that some stakeholders, they find it easy. Maybe they're more of academia, so it may be much easier for them when they read the document to understand. So, but when you are explaining it, you may use different terms and whereby they don't understand. But once you have documented it, becomes easy for the stakeholders or for the selected few that could not might have understood your explanation or presentations, or even for the near future, whereby they say, okay, they make references, said, yes, this is how we carried out this and ABCD, blah, blah. And so also like some, it also helped if once he has done documentation, it helps in the implementation of robust information sharing system to facilitate collaborations among teams and then departments. Yeah, there's some, like as I was saying, there's some other like information system sharing, which is a little bit complicated, so others may not understand. But once you do the documentation, it's easy for them to understand. Brings in about the transparency that we are all working together, we're on the same page, and we look towards having a successful system coming up or project at the end of it. So those are the few that roles identified for John Mayer with the information system planning organization. Then lastly, under still the roles, one of the stakeholders, that were the board of directors. The board of directors, we identified that there was need for having a general oversight and then governance of the project. Yes, they provide a compliance and then an oversight and governance for the compliance initiative, ensuring that all of them, they are aligned with the organization objectives. Yes, you could find that the department has come up with maybe they're trying to they have initiated a development which is not in the line with the organizational objectives. So they're supposed to oversee and say, okay, fine, we are coming up with this, but what is it in line with our with what the organization need? So that was one of the roles that the board of directors needed to do. And then also have a review and approve project plans, resource allocations, and then risk management strategies. They look into it and say, okay, fine, right now, this is what our plan says, but now according to, but moving fast forward, if we need this project to go on, we need to have some review and approve this and ABCDZ within the project plan or even resource allocation. They could find that the project needed more money. So they needed to, they have the power to say, okay, fine, let us allocate more funds for this so that we have this project well done and then completed, because it's going to improve or maybe the efficiency of our production at the end of it all once it is developed. And also they have to do their own monitoring and then effectiveness of internal control related compliances. Yes, all monitoring of the and controls of internal related compliances, the board of directors take charge to make sure that they are doing all monitoring and cutting across. And also they have to make decisions. They come up with decision makings and then participating in decision process related to crucial aspects. For example, you may find that the board of directors really, sometimes most of them are so much under, they're not so much technological wise related in like into thinking. Most of them are into business. How much money are we making? What is coming up here and there? So now, if they're making more decisions concerning that, it should be actually themselves. They should look and try to integrate. Yes, we want to make money, but then the project that comes in, the system that is going to be developed, it's going to help us maybe move to the next chapter. Or you find that now the area where they tend to for the organization to run, there's a need for them to migrate some systems and move forward to also the same level with the trending needs and then requirements of the customers and the clients and all that, or even the all technology and all those kinds. So they have to come out and then make decisions. Okay, fine, where we are right now, we know this is our best thing, but for right now, we need this to come up. So, and also, they still understand decision making. They need to address any escalating issues and provide guidelines on strategy directions. If I have a lot of rise of decision, maybe actually some kind of issues coming up, which is too much arising, they come and then say, okay, fine, we are here, maybe explain to us, maybe present, and then we see how we can address in relation to the strategy. And then so long as it is binding all with the objectives of the organization, they have to come in and make the addition and make call. Because sometimes you may find that it's way beyond the head of a department or head of the project manager. So they have to come and say, no, with all this, we need maybe you go ahead. So they have to decide, are we pushing ahead with this or we are not? And then crisis management and oversight. Yes, Board of Directors always have to establish a crisis management framework to represent promptly and then effectively to any Y2K related crisis. So if they have those crises in framework within the organization, becomes easy for to mitigate once the risk comes in. And then also having the updates and then review on crisis management plans that they have to align with the Y2K risk which is arising. So those are the few roles of the board of directors that we identified. And then the question 5, yes, question 5 or 3, yeah, the one that wanted us to find out first of all what was the adequacy of the first draft of Ben Scott. Yes, we looked into Ben Scott draft, and then we identified it had some strength, then it had some areas that needed to be improved. So we looked at it as one of the strengths that the draft had. It was having a structured framework. It was having a structured framework that was reviewing the year 2000 planning coordination. It broke down the guidelines into sections, focusing planning, a high-level assessment, software vendor or business partnership, partner management. So it was well structured that it helped. It was very easy for the draft to be to be followed in the project development and implementation. Then also you could see that the project had clear objectives. Like for each guidelines, it was well outlined. It outlined clear, like for each and every section, it had clear objectives, such as assigning responsibilities and then providing regular status reports to the auditing committees, ensuring that the certification from vendors were reviewed by the board of directors. So you could see that it had very clear objectives that we identified, and also it had a very comprehensive coverage. Or for example, it was covering key aspects of the compliance processes, and including, like for example, planning coordination, high-level assessments, management of softwares and vendors, and then partners. So it covered all that. And then the last one, one of the strengths that we saw, it had it focused much on coordination, and like you could see that the emphasis was much on the coordinations and reporting mechanism, which was essential for them to align efforts across different units, and then find out transparency was ensured within all the countries that they had. And also we saw as if, however, having all those the four strength, there are some areas that needed improvement that we saw. For example, you find that if you could see that Ben Scott needed some, there was lack of informational details that he needed to improve on. You find that, like, especially when to monitor and then disseminate informations to all inside and outside country offices. For instance, you could see that under section 2, on high-level assessment, could benefit from more specific instruction on how to conduct and document the assessment. That is, so it needed like for him to have, once he gets information, make sure that the information is disseminated throughout all offices, both inside and outside. And also there was need for him to have an interpersonal role that needed him to change. Like for example, leading and motivating, and leading, training, motivating, and then all like subordinates within the countries. He had to maintain all the liaison, and then managing information leakages inside and outside the country. So that was an interpersonal skill that Ben Scott himself needed to have to improve on, because you would see that he was not having that. He was not linking most of the like all the offices. There were some few focuses he was leaning, especially the US. And then also there was need for improvement on testing methodology. Yes, the first draft does not explicitly address the testing methodology, which is actually very crucial in aspect of the Y2K compliance. You could find that including on how to establish a testing methodology and schedule could enhance the effectiveness of the compliance efforts. And in decision making, there was some like Ben Scott needed to also improve on some of the decision makings, and you find that it would help. Like for example, he needed to act as like an entrepreneur that will initiate projects that could lead to improvement of the process in an organization by delegating idea generation responsibility to others, and then identify the best idea to act on. Because you could find that some of the like it doesn't need to come up with everything or like all ideas. You need to delegate some of this to other to other departments, and then afterwards, when everyone has presented maybe the best option or the best method they could go with it, because everyone would have contributed. But by him only coming up with all this, you find that is limiting. Like he has limited like himself to maybe the knowledge or to the all areas that everyone has within the organization or the company. And also we looked at it as like another one, having him to put more emphasis on having creating employees awareness and training them. Yes, it will help. It will help to incorporate the recommendations of how and to ensure the employees are adequately informed and trained to contribute to the compliance of initiative. Even if they are not trained, and then you're just bringing them on board to say, now we need to do this, you're giving them tasks. Sometimes you feel that they may not have a little bit of, they may not participate to the fullest. You may limit their participation. So those were the areas that we saw that it was necessary for maybe to be improved upon to the draft. And also at the end of it all, like what were the for if we were to act as a manager, what were the encouraging or motivations we could give to the teams so that they can move faster? One, we saw one having it was making clear communication. If the manager makes a clear communication to all the stakeholders involved in the project, it becomes very easy, because now you find that in the communication you're emphasizing what are the significance of the compliance initiative and the potential consequences of delays. It is very clear. You are very sure. Okay, fine. Once you delay in the project implementation, you're going to have this system. Oh, we needed this to have the ABCD, blah, blah. So once it is very clear with every stakeholder, it's very simple for them to come in and then follow up the event, say, okay, where the project is and what they really need to do, or what, and then understand their roles very clearly. Also, there was a need to have as a manager, to have a setting up clear milestones and then targets. Yes, you want to have some targets and then milestone, but sometimes it's better to have a clear and achievable. You may find that the milestone and targets you have set, they are not achievable. So it is easy to, it was very good that a manager sets out a milestone which is clear and achievable, milestone, so that it is not easy like at the end of maybe a phase of the project, they realize that, oh, we have spent a lot of time and then we have not even achieved the project, like what we want to achieve out of this phase, and start going back, maybe 2 steps back into the project phase. And because this, once they have defined the targets and then deadlines are clear, it is easy for them to come up with urgency and then propose new new purposes. Also, there was need to recognizing and then rewarding in progress, in progress of a project. This is one of the actually one of the positive energy builder within within any team. A manager needs to appreciate and then reward the reward the progress of any progress of in the development of a project, because this helps to give the developers or the stakeholders or within that positive energy to just then they get to be associated with the with the project themselves, and they get to realize that, oh yeah, I actually did this, and then I'm seeing it very important, or it has improved the efficiency of the system, and then maybe they get to appreciate how much time, how much effort they have taken within the project. Also, there was need to the manager to provide resources and then support. Why is this necessary? Because both in terms of technology and manpower, if you need maybe the timeline for it is you have 2 weeks timeline to produce, to complete the phase, and then you're allocating it to one person, then that may be a bit unrealistic to some extent, because you might find that this one person is putting the conditions or other factors constant. In case you fall sick, find that the manpower to make sure that that phase is completed, you will be delayed because the person has fallen sick. So there's need to him to provide resources and then support. And then also he needs to have a fostering collaborative culture. Why? By having open communications among the teams. Yes, if you don't maybe have, because sometimes you find that teams tend to compete, because when they realize that we are going to award, maybe at the end of it all, they're going to award maybe the phase just completed first or something like that. They tend not to be open to communicate openly to their stakeholders, or maybe to their different teams, and that one is not good, because it's now the manager that to make sure to enforce that, make sure that there is a collaborative culture within the teams, and that one helps in building up the project so fast. And also, empowering employees. How can the manager empowers employees? By having a sense of ownership over their task. Yes, you're giving them this, but then when they own the task, let them come up with the solutions. Don't try maybe to give a checklist, or maybe you can try to maybe direct, but don't give a checklist that I need A, B, C, D, Z. Sometimes you narrow down, the managers will narrow down the area of their research. So, and they will come up not by at the end of it all, not owning the task. So the only thing, you have to encourage them and then empower them with all what they need. And another thing is giving continuous feedback and improvement. That's a tapping area there, in improvement. At the end of it all, the manager has to give feedbacks on performance and then areas of improvement. Say, yes, we have ABC data so far. We are here. We have gone maybe 2 steps ahead. Also, but under this other 4 step, we need to improve on this area ABCDZ. It makes it a bit simple, and then even if it's not there, everyone gets to the same level of the project. They don't feel that gap of anything missing. Then also communicating the benefits of the project. At the end of it all, yes, if you are doing all this, you are providing resources to them, you are rewarding them, you're setting targets, you're giving feedback, but then they don't know the benefit of the project. You find that resource challenge. Sometimes, like as I said earlier on, there's some stakeholders who really are not so much, they are at the end of, maybe they're not so mindful of the tech area, but they're so much in looking forward to the end product. So you really have to bring it clear and then communicate, like articulate the long-term benefits of the success, for a successful compliance for both the organization and then the individual teams. That will help a lot for the project to move faster, and then at the end of it all, there will be no delays in timelines, and then to having all achievable goals and all that. And for the questions, for the question 6, I will let my colleague Andrew take over from here. I don't know if I was loud. Hope so. Andrew, please take over.
You are clear, Walter.
Thank you, Doctor. Andrew.
Thank you, Walter. So for section 6, we had these additional questions we identified. One was, has a comprehensive initial assessment been conducted to identify all systems, applications, and infrastructure components that may be affected by the Y2K challenge? Are all critical business functions and processes thoroughly evaluated during the scope process to ensure that no potential Y2K risks are overlooked? Third one was, have clear criteria been established for prioritizing systems and applications based on their level of importance to the organization's operations? 4 was, is there a documented methodology for assessing the impact of Y2K issues on each system or application, including potential consequences of business continuity and customer service? Question 5, are stakeholders from relevant departments or business units actively involved in the scoping process to provide insight into system dependencies and potential Y2K impacts? 6, has consideration been given to external factors such as vendor support and industry compliance standards during the scoping of Y2K assessment activities? 7, are the mechanisms in place to ensure that the scope of Y2K assessment activities remain aligned with the organization's strategic objectives and regulatory requirements? Question 8, has the scoping process identified any areas of uncertainty or ambiguity that require further investigation or clarification before proceeding with remediation efforts? Those were additional questions for section 3. For section 4, impact analysis. 1, has the comprehensive impact analysis been conducted to assess the potential implication of the Y2K issue on the organization's systems, processes, and stakeholders? 2, were all critical business functions and processes evaluated to determine their susceptibility to Y2K related failures? 3, did the impact analysis consider the potential financial, operational, and reputational risks associated with Y2K non-compliance? 4, were external dependencies such as interactions with vendors, partners, and regulatory bodies included in the impact analysis? 5, was there an evaluation of the cascading effects of Y2K failures across interconnected systems and processes? 6, were mitigation strategies identified to address the potential impacts identified in the analysis and were contingency plans developed to manage unforeseen disruptions? 7, how were the findings of the impact analysis communicated to key stakeholders, including senior management, the board of directors, and relevant business units? 7, 8, were these mechanisms in place to track the implementation of mitigation strategies and monitor changes in the risk landscape throughout the Y2K compliance process? 9, did the impact analysis take into account the potential long-term effects of the Y2K related failures on the organization's competitive position, regulatory compliance, and customer trust? Ronald, can you take over?
Thank you, my dear colleagues, Walter and Andrew. In conclusion, these were also our additional questions to the Y2K plan implemented by the Rock Solid. So our additional for this Y2K plan, another one was, is there a mechanism of... Andrew, you've taken off the slide. I beg. Thank you. Yes. So our additional question here was that, are there defined timelines and milestones for each phase of the Y2K plan, including redevelopment, modification, testing, implementation, and data conversion? Yes, this was experimented when we looked at the article where there were 3 country offices, US, Canada, and Europe, and we realized the implementation of the Y2K was not in the same phase of implementation. The other question was, does the plan outline specific criteria for evaluating the success and completeness of each deliverable, ensuring the Y2K compliance standards are met? And then the third one for that phase was, are there designated individuals or teams responsible for overseeing and coordinating each aspect of the Y2K plan? And are their roles and responsibilities clearly defined? Then lastly, for this section, has resource allocation been adequately addressed in the plan, including staffing, budgeting, procurement of the necessary tools and technologies? Andrew, I request you to go to the next slide. Our next observation was that, is there a mechanism of tracking and monitoring progress against the Y2K timelines and their implementation in the different country offices? Are there contingency plans in place to mitigate the risks and addressing the unforeseen challenges of implementation of this plan? And then are there provision for the ongoing maintenance and monitoring of the compliance for the post-implementation, and how to address any risks to ensure system integrity for the 3 different country offices where this project was being implemented? And then lastly, has the Y2K plan been reviewed, approved by relevant stakeholders, including the senior management and the different regulatory authorities, to ensure alignment with organization objectives and compliance requirements? So Doctor, that was our submission. We were a team of very many colleagues, 6, and all our colleagues were part of this presentation. Thank you so very much. We submit.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I especially liked the formulated questions at the end. Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any other group? Do we have any other group?
I don't think we were the last group.
We were the last group. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your presentations. Yes. I think they were well thought out. I appreciate that, and I think they preempt our next lecture. I was hoping our next lecture would take it today, but I think looking at the time, I may be stretching it a bit much. So I think it would be best we hold it off for next Friday. Is that okay?
Perfect, Doctor.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, Doctor.
Okay.